On this vote, the yeas are 60, the nays are 40. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn, having voted in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to.
They haven't got the American public. They had 60% of the United States Senate. 60% of the American people are against this.
The debate over the vote is over. The debate over whether this bill is a political winner or loser is just heating up.
And getting to 60 was so much fun, the Senate's going to do it a few more times before Christmas. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And catch up with us all day long via Twitter. It's twitter.com/TheNote. Let us know what you think.
It doesn't even really feel like a holiday week because of all the action that's going on up on the Hill. Get us started.
Indeed.
What's your top line?
Cloture. The deed is done, and it's all over now except for a few more votes that'll be very similar. 60 votes exactly is what they got for the health care bill in the Senate. It's finally happened after all that buildup. We'll see it play out now for a few more days because Republicans like to see Democrats squirm. But this is exactly, of course, what President Obama wanted, maybe not quite the way he wanted to get it, to have 60-40, all 60 Democrats yes, all 40 Republicans no.
Again, I'll continue to question why they didn't make the play to try to drop a Democrat and get Olympia Snowe on board just for the appearance of bipartisanship. But Rick, John McCain and David Axelrod clearly agree. The polls are not in the president's favor on this right now. It's just that they differ about whether or not those polls will turn around. Let's make a deal. How did this get done? This is deal-making, backroom deal-making at its height. We see here a lot of money going to Nebraska. Ben Nelson worked out a deal for his state, for his vote, that the Medicaid expansion, which is really going to crush a lot of state budgets, not the state budget of Nebraska, though. In perpetuity, it seems, Nebraska is not going to have to worry about that Medicaid expansion. We see Chris Dodd getting $100 million for the University of Connecticut Medical School. We saw Max Baucus getting a little something for Montana up there. This is really, this is when the sweeteners come in to get those 60 votes.
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, we thought we'd see this all on C-SPAN once upon a time. I wonder why. This wouldn't televise quite as well, but it is giving new challenges to people that come up with the monikers for these things, like the Louisiana Purchase. So we'll have a little bit of a contest to see what the best of those as it develops. Truth and consequences. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has an exclusive interview with ABC's Diane Sawyer tonight, when she makes her debut as the anchor of World News. And this is part, he gets asked in this interview about these documents that purport to show an Iranian nuclear program in the working. Ahmadinejad says that these are all a U.S. fabrication. David Axelrod calls that just utter nonsense, and also warns of consequences if this continues. We saw John McCain today again say this has been a year now of the buildup around the threats around consequences. At some point, you have to actually see consequences to make good on that.
Yeah, we have heard that threat of consequences quite a bit. But the other point that the White House and that David Axelrod was making yesterday is this notion that the engagement, it's not up in the air, according to the White House, that engagement is working to some degree, because if it's working simply for the fact that the United States is willing to play ball with Iran, that actually might bring Russia and China around into the sanctions game. We'll see if that's true. I think it's still a great unanswered question about the foreign policy of this administration. And finally today, snow day. Yes, in a town that has absolutely no idea how to deal with a big blizzard, the federal government shuts down with some snow on the ground here. Robert Gibbs has canceled his 1 p.m. briefing today. So no, I don't know who's going to fill that news vacuum at the White House while the non-essential employees are staying home from the federal government today.
Well, it's nice and warm here, and it's also warm on Capitol Hill, where there's a whole mess of news conferences of senators who would love to jump into this one.
And now they won't have to compete with the White House so
right.
much. We're going to take a brief pause from healthcare for a moment. We're going to get back to it with Dana Milbank of the Washington Post in just a bit, but we want to turn to Matthew Sanderson, who's an attorney here in town and has launched what is known as the Playoff PAC. This is one of the new political action committees in town, dealing with the controversy over the Bowl Championship Series, something you clearly want to destroy. You don't think this BCS series, the way it is now, is the way to go. You're in agreement with President Obama on this. What is the purpose of your PAC? What kind of pressure are you trying to bring to Congress on this?
Well, basically, what we've seen is 90% of college football fans disapprove of the current system. And unfortunately, in an ideal world, the BCS would reform itself. But that plainly isn't going to happen. It's existed for 11 years. The only pressure point that's really worked is congressional pressure. So what we'll be doing is ratcheting up that pressure so that the BCS responds to the public.
Now, you're a Republican. A lot of Republicans actually feel similarly about this, but why have government jump in on something? This is a private enterprise, college football. It doesn't have any direct public aspect to it. Why should government be involved in this at all?
Well, as I said, regrettably, this is not the first resort, but it is an important pressure point to bring about change. And the reason why this is important this is not Afghanistan, this is not healthcare, but this involves enormous amounts of money, and it's run by tax-exempt institutions, and we think that Congress should have some say in that. And speak on behalf of their constituents.
Now, you make the point. It's not Afghanistan. It's not healthcare. We could add 25 more things to that list. Why do you think you're going to get a hearing in Congress? I mean, I don't know how much money your PAC has raised so far or which candidates you're backing at this point, but is this something that members are really willing to listen to you guys on? It feels like their plate is rather full with other things.
Certainly. There are a number of other issues, but this doesn't require an enormous amount of time to pay attention to or understand. A lot of members of Congress are college football fans. They see that the BCS conferences got $493 million the past 5 years versus $62 million for the non-BCS conferences. They recognize the inequities that are there, and so there is a lot of interest in this issue.
Now, what does this do to the other bowls, though, or the whole bowl system in general? If you put a playoff system in place, all the history, the tradition around these bowls, they're out the window?
No, we want to make the bowl system more important, build within the existing bowl system, and basically just give a few more bowl games rather than limiting it to one game. Make a few more bowl games, have national championship implications. And as for the other bowls, I think those will continue to exist. People watch them even though they aren't important as far as the national championship.
Even though they're not part of the playoff system that you're talking about.
Right.
And this isn't personal because of Utah.
Well, that's why I got interested in the issue in the first place. But
we have Utah's record. They had a couple of real rough runs here. They two undefeated seasons recently.
Right.
We're looking at 2004, 12-0 in 2008, 13, and then no shot at the national championship. That's why you have Orrin Hatch on board.
Right. But this is every bit as much about the University of Texas or USC as it is about the University of Utah. There's a lot of things going on as far as harmful off-the-field consequences for schools, and these need to be paid attention to.
Does this? What is this going to mean for Northwestern? I'll do it on behalf of my colleague here. They're playing the Alamo, but that's a good example of a.
Bowl. They're playing the
I'm sorry,
Outback Bowl.
Bowl.
They played the Alamo Bowl last year.
Sorry about that.
New Year's Day Bowl.
New Year's Day Bowl. Well, this is sort of my point. New Year's Day Bowl. It's the excitement. I mean, a team like Northwestern that'll never win a national championship, David will be the first to admit.
Granted.
But this is a big. I can't imagine if you have the parallel system of the playoffs and then the New Year's Day Bowls. It would have to take away from the New Year's Day Bowls.
No, not really. The existing games, the Outback Bowl, unfortunately has no national championship implications. We're not changing anything that's going on with the Outback Bowl currently. Those will continue to exist, and Northwestern fans and other alums will continue to care about those bowls. So we're leaving the existing system intact.
Now, President Obama agrees with you, but you're not going to be able to donate to his campaign, because he doesn't accept PAC money. Right. Obviously, that's not the case with other politicians. Rick mentioned Orrin Hatch. Who are some of your other champions in Congress, and is there a specific piece of legislation that you guys are pushing for right now?
Yes, there are a number of members of Congress who've been active on this issue. Perhaps most notably is Congressman Joe Barton from Texas. He sponsored a bill that recently moved through subcommittee with only one nay vote. There are other pieces of legislation, but that one's the furthest to progress through the legislative pipeline.
Joe Barton working with the president just like he always does.
Maybe the only issue they agree on.
Matt Sanderson, thank you very much. Playoff PAC. Appreciate you being here during this college football bowl season.